Did you know that 90% of the world's millionaires invest in real estate? Well, I'm Angel with the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks, and I'm here to help you if you want to go for your piece of that pie.
Yeah, we're going to bring back some of that control. We want to bring back the interest. And so when again, this is another example, and there's more later on, but when David mentions the paradigm shift, we have to think differently. We have to think about money and math are not the same, right? Again, people see paying 9 and charging 15, they see 6%. No, money works differently, okay? So the same thing is if we're having to think differently, money and math function differently, we also have to understand that the different financial tools, right, the different ways to save money are all different. Again, banks aren't bad. They're really here for the short term, and that's money that we are going to use within the next 0 to 12 months. If we don't use it in that timeline, we're technically losing money due to inflation. Well, on the flip side of that, we have the long term. This is anything. This is real estate. It could be your 401k, your IRA, your business, whatever. It's something that 10 to 20 years or more until it's actually going to come to fruition and be your income source. Okay. So most people have this savings dilemma. Well, I can put money into something that I can use within the next 0 to 12 months, or I can put it into something that's really not going to pay off for about 10 to 20 years. That's a massive gap. Most people have a huge hole here in the middle of their financial plan. Well, what about all the time in between? What about the next 0 to 20 plus years? What about all the time in between? How do we bridge the gap between what most people are kind of torn between? And again, there's no such thing as a bad tool. We want to understand how do these all work together. So the first way to save money is by putting it into a bank. Most people save money into a bank because it's safe, or so they think. It should be. And it's also technically liquid, right? We can pay our bills with it. We can get to it. It may take us a little bit of time, whatever, but it's safe and there's a liquidity aspect to it. However, are we really going to get any sort of rate of return in the bank? No. That's not a bad thing. That's not what it's designed for. So there's really no growth. So again, on the flip side, we have our investments. So when we have investments, again, 401k, IRA, businesses, real estate, whatever, the idea is I want to put money into this box and I'm hoping that it's going to grow. I don't have a guarantee, but I'm hoping for growth. Well, here's the catch. Is money inside of an investment immediately liquid? Can we get to it? Not usually. And then also, is it safe or could it potentially lose value? There's always the potential to lose value. That's what an investment is, right? There's some safer than others, but they do have the opportunity to lose money. So here's the dilemma. If you want safety and liquidity, you had to sacrifice growth. But if you want growth, well, then you had to sacrifice safety and liquidity. So again, we have this crossroads of saving money on the short term or the long term, and we're having to sacrifice one set of characteristics for the other. So we want to, again, fill this gap here and say, well, I want to have guaranteed growth. And, oh yeah, I need my money to be safe. So when I need it, I can get to it. I don't know how many passive investors we know of that earlier this year had to pass along a deal that came across their desk because their liquid assets were down in value. They could not invest in it because they didn't have the liquidity. They didn't have the ability. On the flip side, we know a couple of lead sponsors, of deal sponsors that had to go find new passives because some of their investors lost money and had to back and weren't able to invest in the deal. So again, we want to have our money ready for us when we need it. We also, with that being said, it has to be liquid. I don't want to have to jump through hoops or pay, transaction fees or any of that crap to be able to get to my money. We talked about the tax-free element. Growing money on a tax-free basis is so powerful. And then here's something that is not addressed enough. It's completely private. And this is why Warren Buffett, he actually refers to this asset as the vault. Think of a vault like in your garage or your basement, whatever. You can put money in when you want and you can take money out when you want. And who knows how much money is in your vault? just you. Not Uncle Sam, not the IRS, you know, not oh my gosh, who is it? I think of Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase, and you know the cousin comes in and he's always asking him for money. But anyway, nobody knows how much money is in your vault. It's completely yours and it's completely private. It's completely protected, right? And that's safe from creditors, right? So people who you know owe money to, let's say a deal goes bad, whatever. Also predators. We're gonna sue Happy World, so it's something that, you know, just because you rear end somebody and their neck hurts, they can't come after you. But again, to David's point, all of these are designed to work together. This is not saying my daddy can beat up your daddy. This is saying we have all different tools in our toolbox. We have a hammer, a saw, and a screwdriver. So, well, I'm going to change colors here. How this works is you take money out of your bank and you put it into your vault, your cash value policy. You use that money to invest in real estate, which then you pay back into your vault, and it creates more cash flow into your bank account. And guess what? You rinse and repeat. So you start the whole process over and over again. So when Robert Kiyosaki talks about, you know, the velocity of money, we want our money to have momentum, be consistently moving, what I like to call flowing and growing, right? So our money is always moving. We're always earning interest, because if there's a day that we don't earn interest, that's a day that we lost money, period. So this gives us the ability to flow and grow between all three asset classes and be able to take advantage of that compound interest at the same time. A little bit of subliminal messaging if you guys haven't figured out. This is the infinity symbol. So I specifically designed it that way. I don't know what our time's like. Are we doing okay on time, or where are we?
We're fine.
Okay. So I'm going to just keep moving on. Here's the thing. When we talk about using the right tool for the right job, even whenever we go through the IBC teachings and the class and everything that Nelson Nash actually outlines, the only asset that actually performs all of these functions is a dividend paying guaranteed whole life insurance cash value policy. And we will only use mutually owned A-rated companies. Okay. And again, that is because they are the only ones. These are the only types of accounts that have all of these guarantees right here. So your death benefit's guaranteed. There is a death benefit component. Like David said, this is a generational wealth mindset. In fact, there's a book. It's called What Would the Rockefellers Do? Okay, and it compares the Rockefeller family to the Vanderbilt family. And it really looks at how, you know, both of them massive titan, you know, monopolized families back in the early 1900s. Well, over the last 100-something years, the Rockefellers have, you know, maintained their wealth, right? And the Vanderbilts really don't have much left to their name other than that school in Tennessee. So what happened there? So they actually go through and dissect how did each family actually pass along wealth from one generation to the next. And spoiler alert, the Rockefellers are big advocates and have used life insurance to pass along wealth from generation to generation, completely avoiding like what David calls wealth eroding factors, taxes, inheritance, all of those things. So there is a guaranteed death benefit component, but your premium is guaranteed. And I want to emphasize this. This is the only type of account that your premium is guaranteed to never, ever increase. We all tend to get older and less healthy. Guess what? They cannot charge you more. My car insurance, I swear, goes up every 6 months. My house, right? So it's really nice to know that this is something that when I lock it in 10, 20, 30 years, however long down the line, I'm paying the same thing regardless of what has happened with my health, my age, or anything in between, okay? Which really, if we think about it with the time value of money, due to inflation, I'm technically paying less, but that's a whole nother conversation. Lastly, your cash value is guaranteed to increase every single year, no matter what, uncorrelated to the stock market. So how this works is you have your death benefit. It does increase over time, even though your premiums stay level. Again, they're guaranteed to never increase. Inside of the account, you have your cash value growing. Remember, we talked about the compound interest curve. It starts off small and then takes off towards the back end. There is one part about this entire setup that is non-guaranteed. I know you guys can see it over here, non-guaranteed. And that's the future annual dividends. Meaning, once you receive a dividend, it's yours, nobody can take it away. But we can't say that we cannot guarantee that the companies will pay dividends every single year. Now, coming back to this mutually owned part right here, we use companies that do not have stockholders. Not me, not you, not David. Nobody can buy stock in these companies. They are privately held. So you don't have to compete with shareholders for the dividend. So who do you think they give these dividends to? Their policyholders, the members that are involved in their company. So at the end of the year, the company pays a dividend and we have it reinvested back into our cash value to continue to participate in that growth. And that just makes your cash value grow even faster. So, like I said, these are non-guaranteed. We can't promise that they'll be paid out. However, I can tell you the companies that we use have been around since 1850 or earlier and have issued a dividend every single year since inception. Through the Great Depression, through every economic cycle, right, through 2008, 2009, through the COVID 2020 crisis, they've issued a dividend every single year. So are they guaranteed? No, but take that information however you want. But that's just at a high level. All of these, and David does a great job of building specially designed policies to maximize the cash value, right? But this is just a general overview of internally how these work, but they are specifically and strategically designed for each individual person, depending on what it is that they want, where they are, and everything in between, okay? Now, I mentioned the vault earlier and the protection element. This in particular, what I'm going to say is going to be specifically related to Texas. Texas protects 100% of the cash value. If you are in Texas and you have money in a life insurance policy, there is nobody that can get to it. Now, other states have looser, right? Looser. So I'll give you an example. Go figure. California, they are one of the loosest on actually accessing the cash values of the policy, and they actually have an allowance of access up to 50% of the cash value. So there is still a protection element, no matter, it's just to what percentage is protected. So again, I mentioned creditors, so that could be if you're over leveraged on a loan, financial hardship, whatever, creditors knocking on your door, they can put on liens, they can do all of those things, but they can't touch your cash value. Same thing with the IRS. Again, there's liens, they're putting hold on bank accounts, right? So they're like, hey, we want you to pay us our money, but we're going to prevent you from doing business to be able to go out and make money. I don't know if anybody's ever been in that situation. It's frustrating. God forbid you make an accounting mistake, right? So people, you file your taxes and you count something wrong, carry the one, whatever. The IRS doesn't mess around. They'll come, they'll put a hold on your bank, on your house, on your dog, whatever. They cannot touch your cash value life insurance policy. Same thing with, like I mentioned, predators. There are people out there ready to sue at the drop of a hat. This could be disgruntled investors. This could be, we live in DFW. You know how many car accidents there are here. So people looking to sue, single family people, right? I did the single family thing for a little while, the landlord thing, a very little while. But all it takes is a clumsy tenant who trips and falls on your property, or some knucklehead kid. It doesn't matter. You need to be able to protect yourself from those types of incidents. The bad boy rule, right? So people who are doing syndications, there are things outside of our control. If somebody goes and breaks a bad boy rule, there is nothing that says people can't break through that LLC like that. So this is just another barrier, another cushion to provide separation of liability and just protect yourself and your family. Now, here's the thing, financial reporting. Here's where we really want to understand the vault aspect. Whenever we, let's say, our kids decide to go to college in the future, we're filling out the FAFSA, the scholarship forms. David went through this last year with his oldest daughter going to college. You're filling out every form out there, and you're having to disclose everything, bank accounts, 401k, houses, whatever. You have to disclose all of your financial information. 529 plans. So college savings plans can be used against you when you go to fill out, right, these application forms. Shame on you for trying to save up money. But here's the thing. Whenever you have money saved inside of these policies, you do not have to disclose it. It's completely private and completely shielded. You don't have to disclose it. So you are able to actually not have to, you can make yourself appear as illiquid as possible in the instances that you need it. Let's flip that. Let's talk about bank loans. So let's think about somebody who wants to be a KP, or somebody who wants to be a deal sponsor, or let's say you're trying to become an accredited investor, right? And you're looking at your PFS. You can actually put this cash value down as a part of your liquidity and your net worth. And there's a lot of lenders out there who do not recognize IRAs or 401ks anymore as liquidity. They don't even recognize it. The ones that do will only give you a 50% account value credit. Two reasons. One, they're not really liquid because there's taxes and penalties to get the money out. And then number two, it's correlated to the stock market. So it can be, I mean, we know what's going on right now. It could be high today and low tomorrow. They don't know what that account value is going to be. So you only get 50% credit. When you're putting this type of information, this cash value down on your PFS or, showing your liquidity or whatever, you actually get 100% cash value credit. Whatever you have, you get 100% of that value because they know it's 100% liquid. You can get to it immediately and there's no correlation to the stock market. So again, when we talk about a vault, we can protect and shield our money when we want to, and then show our cards when we need to, right? So this is bringing back that element of control and being in the driver's seat of saying, this is what I want to do with my money and when and where. So there's a big protection element. Now, this is an interesting phrase. Some people have heard it, some people haven't. But whether we believe it or not, we finance everything we buy. Even you Ramsey bots out there are financing everything we buy. And it's not necessarily something that most people think about, but there's two ways to buy something. You can pay cash or go into debt, right? So let's go the good old American way first and go into debt. So we go into debt and then we work to pay it off until we get back to zero. And the entire time we pay off that debt, what we're having to do is pay interest on whatever note we're carrying. The flip side is, well, I'm going to pay cash. So what I do is I'm going to save up. I have enough money saved. I spend it all at once to buy whatever it is that I want. But guess where I end back up? I'm still at zero. So Angel, for example, you're a motorcycle riding kind of gal. So you have a motorcycle for sale. And I come to you and I say, hey, I want to buy your motorcycle. And I pay you $10,000 cash. Here you go. And I drive away. Did I pay you any interest for that motorcycle? No, I paid cash, right? But the $10,000 that I paid you, will it ever earn me a rate of return in the future?
Not now.
Not now. I don't have it anymore. So I didn't pay you any interest, but now what I've done is I have lost, you lose the ability to earn any future value interest that I could have gained on that money. So here we have to figure out which one is worse. Do we want to pay interest or lose the ability to earn future value interest? How do we stop paying those opportunity costs? Okay, it's going to happen one way or the other. We just have to figure out which way is which. Okay, and every situation is different, but we're going to look at a real estate scenario. Let's say that you have a normal, like a self-directed IRA or a withdrawal account. That could be a bank account, a brokerage investment account, whatever. If you have $100,000 in the account and this deal comes across your table and you decide, hey, I want to invest $70,000. Okay, you will go invest and your account is only earning interest on the $30,000 that's left over, right? Makes sense. Now, yes, you're going and investing, right? That's what you're doing. So that's a good thing. But on the flip side, what if I am my own banker and I have $100,000 saved up and I want to take that $70,000 to go invest in this property over here? I'm going to go get whatever IRR that deal is generating, right? So we're, rocking and rolling over there. But because I take that money out as a loan, because I'm my own banker, I want to be a good banker and I want to be a good borrower. So I'm going to cash flow some of that back into my policy to pay myself back. And the entire time, I'm still earning interest on the full $100,000. So not only do I get to go invest in real estate, I get to earn money in the background too, right? So that's the beautiful thing. Here's where a lot of people get hung up. Why in the world would I borrow my own money? Well, good question, Angel. We have to understand that math and money are different, okay? We're going to look at a scenario right here, assuming that we are earning the same interest as what we are paying on the loan. This is not a real scenario, but I want to bring up to people and bring out the point that money and math are different. So let's say that you have $50,000 in your account, and for the next 5 years, you're going to earn 5% compounded interest, okay? You know that's going to happen. On the flip side, though, you take out a $50,000 loan, that for the next 5 years, you are going to pay 5% simple annualized interest. Okay, you with me? So my question is, which of these accounts is going to accrue more interest, or is it going to be a wash? Are we going to earn and pay the same amount of interest? No. So Angel, I think you're already ahead of the game on this. You know, it is not a wash. But let's take a look at a calculator and see how this actually works. Okay. So this is a loan calculator, and we're looking at a $50,000 loan, okay, assuming a 5% interest rate over 60 months. Okay, there we go. Okay. So we have this loan, 60 months. And this is just a general amortization schedule. So this is a little bit different than what people see on their policy loans, but just for the sake of numbers, let's take a look. In month one, my interest is much higher than it is in month 10, 20, 50, right? Over and over and over, we're paying interest. In fact, over the 60 months, we have paid $6,614 in interest on this loan. And a lot of people at this point are like, screech, no, why? That is so dumb to me. Why in the world would I pay $6,600 in interest when I have the money sitting right there? That makes zero sense to me. Well, here's the thing. Like I just mentioned, the interest that we pay in the beginning is much higher than what we pay on the back end. That is called amortization, because our principal balance that we're paying 5% on is generally decreasing over time, okay? What we also have to realize is we took out a non-recognized loan, meaning they do not recognize that the money is gone when you take it to go invest. So yes, we paid $6,600 in interest. However, in the background, for the last 5 years, that $50,000 has been earning, take that off, that $50,000 has been earning the same 5% interest rate. So although we paid $6,600, we actually ended up earning $13,814. Not bad, right? That's a $7,200, right? David talks about internal arbitrage. That's a $7,200 net balance, right? Not to mention, by the way, remember I talked about those tax deductions earlier? Any interest that's paid on a loan you take from your policy, you can write that off on your taxes. It is a straight line deduction, right? So not only are we earning more interest than what we paid, we're also adding to the additional tax benefits. But internally, that's where we see this arbitrage. Okay, I have no problem paying $6,600 in interest because I know that I'm earning more internally. Could I take it out otherwise? Yes, I can. You have the choice because, again, you're in control. But I know for the long term, I'm not just going to do one real estate deal. That's silly. Now I have $63,800 to put into the next deal that comes along. And oh yeah, by the way, that's not even factoring in all of the money that you made from the first deal that just went full cycle, right? So here we go. I'm going to do another deal 10 years down the line. Oh, 15 years down the line. Oh, 20 years down the line. So the money that I was worried about paying $6,600 in interest 20 years down the line has earned me almost $83,000. Again, we see on this interest earnings, it's not decreasing like it is on that amortization schedule. In the first 5 years, we go from earning $2,500 to $3,000 in 1 year, right? On the back end, the first year, what is it? It goes, we're earning $5,200 in the first year of that cycle to earning $6,300 in interest in 1 year.
Yeah, this right here, this is another, understanding math and money, right? It's not a wash. Again, 5 and 5 is not the real numbers. The policies are lower, the rate to borrow against it's lower, so it even makes this even better. But we want people to understand that when you're thinking mathematically about this type of things, it's wrong. Math and compound and money, they function differently. That's why simple third grade math is average. Simple third grade math average is different than geometrical mean compounded average. It's just different. Yeah. So, and the compound interest curve is huge, right? So it's like you have this 50,000 in year one, right? I could just pull that out and forget paying the $6,600 on the loan. right? Well, we see that it earned more, right? So we're actually earning more, but the real value is that 50,000 is now 63,000 in year 6 to do another 5-year cycle, right? For example of a multifamily investment, right? So it's this growing line of credit on the same money that you're actually being able to use elsewhere. So you're keeping that 82,000 of future value in your estate, right? In your growth, in your compound interest curve. And here's how a compound interest curve really is affected as well that people don't see. Click on cash flow 2, Erica. And let's say that we also want to we want to contribute $5,000 into our bank and our savings. So take off the cash flow 2 for a second, unclick it. All right, look at the interest. So you see the first year is 25 we're going to look at 5-year increments. Okay, 2,500 first year, $3,000 the first, the 5th year. Click on cash flow 2. You see now it's 27, and then year 5 is 4,400. Okay, now unclick cash flow 2. Let's look at the last 5 years. Now here's where it's important, right? Because not only are you saving that future value money, but you're going to be contributing into your bank. Well, why are you going to contribute in your bank? Well, because you know that you can bank on it and you can use it elsewhere. So it's that flow and grow. But look at the last 5 years. Year 15 is 49 of interest. Year 20 is 6,300. Click on the cash flow 2. So look at the last 5 years now. We went from, we exponentially jumped up on what that compound interest curve. So if we look at a 27.5 to a 14.5 curve, right? It is now that curve, click off cash flow 2, just turn it off. So we go from 25 to 6,300. It's a small curve, right? But we still have a curve on that money. Click on cash flow 2. Now we funded it. Now look at 27 to 14. We've exponentially tweaked that curve to have an exponential upward trend, right? And that's what we want to keep in-house, especially when we have the ability to use it in and out, in and out. And so really it's, at this point, it's, you know, now people are probably thinking, okay, but there's a cost associated to this. Well, obviously. And that's where we would actually come in, and that's where we're going to save that good stuff for, you know, Eric and I to actually sit down with clients and say, hey, this is actually how you overcome that insurance cost, how you actually utilize the IRS guidelines to fund this in a way to now accelerate what you're doing. So the way that I like to bring it up as an analogy is a very simple analogy, right? People are probably sitting there thinking, you know, hey, this sounds neat and all of that. I really want to learn more. But is it something that I want to do, or should I just skip that and just go right into accelerating or go into investing into real estate? Well, I bring it back to the tortoise and the hare race. Most people should know the tortoise and the hare race, right? They race, and the tortoise jumps out to a fast start, and then he gets cocky, naps, and then the tortoise ends up winning, right? So it's very similar to that. If I was to back up to the time before I started infinite banking, right? And when I was deciding to do it, if I cloned myself and I had 2 of me, all things the same, right? All future things, all present things the same as a clone. But my clone said, you know what, David, I'm not going to do this infinite banking. I don't want to overcome the acquisition cost of owning this legacy, right? I don't want to do that. I want to go straight into investing into real estate. He's going to be the hare. He's going to jump out to a fast start. I'm going to say, you know what? I see the value of legacy. I see the protection aspects. I see all of the other benefits than just growth, right? And so I'm going to do the infinite banking. Well, I'm going to be the tortoise because I'm purchasing and I'm acquiring, right? You know, this permanent legacy that somebody's getting a tax-free death benefit check. So it's not free, right? So I'm going to be the tortoise. But then when I accurately fund this in a way that the IRS allows it to be done, that isn't how these traditional insurance salesmen out there schlepping this product are setting it up, right? They're setting it up in ways that takes it long-term, you know, just really a long-term asset to grow. So once I actually understand it, set it up right through people like Eric and I, right, helping you set this up, design it right, and fund it right, you overcome that acquisition cost early on. And now you have a tool, an asset that can accelerate your investing and add to your rate of return. And then you pass the hare, because now you have an ability to earn additional rates of return on the same money, right? And whatever you're doing outside the policy, right? Or outside the IBC, because everybody's strategy is different. But IBC in general is going to add to whatever you're doing. So you actually end up passing the hare because you have a strategy that is now accelerating what you're doing. So it's that tortoise and hare. I'm okay getting off to a little less start right now and overcoming acquisition costs now when I'm young, so that I can surpass the hare, right, and come out on the other side with a higher compounded return because I'm using my money within a strategy, wealth strategy that accelerating what I'm doing. Yeah. Does that, Angel,
yeah, absolutely. Because when I think about what we did, it was like, so we're passive in 4 deals, in 4 multifamily syndications. Then we met y'all. And I can remember looking at my husband and saying, we're not investing in another deal until we have this funded and set up, because it's stupid to give up that second way of making the same dollar work.
Right.
And I don't know I don't know a nice way to say it than just, you're leaving money on the table, and that's
literally
ridiculous. I mean, so, and it hurt because we had some good deals come across our plate, and we were like, oh, but it was like, no, must fund.
And the thing is, you guys have the long-term vision, but we also we're an immediate gratification type people, right? That is our society. And I get it, right? Like, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but Amazon 2-day delivery is more like a week, and it's driving me nuts. I want it now, right? So I am all for it, right? My Amazon 2-day delivery taking 7 days is unacceptable. However, right, I also know that the long term is just as important as well. Being able to take advantage of things now, but also set myself and my family up in the future is so beneficial. And it's not about, like you said, like, yeah, there are deals that come across and all of that. But I would ask you, Angel, because you've had an experience with us, you've gone through this, you've seen the numbers, right? And in addition to that, you've seen the ways that we structure these that are specific to the individual person, and being able to, again, David mentioned the acquisition cost. Nothing is free. Real estate's not free. Come on. Does that mean that it's a bad investment? No. If it were free, I would be worried about it, right? Like, if somebody comes and hands me something free, I'm like, whoa, man, here's the thing.
What's your angle?
What's the catch? So we want to be upfront, honest, transparent, and I'm hoping that all the people that we've met would use those words to describe us, because we want to be very upfront and say, hey, here's how this works. This is the transparency of how this works. But we also are going to teach people to overcome it as quickly as possible so that they can get and do deals very, very quickly. And I'll tell you what, we have clients that, some of them are like, hey, I'm not quite ready to do a deal, but I know I want to do this. So I want to set myself up now so that when I am ready, and it may be 2 years, it may be 3 or 4 years until they're ready to actually do a deal. We have other people, one that we actually closed with earlier this week, and she says, hey, I need to put my money in. I need to be able to put it in within the next week, but I need to actually access it within the next month to go put it into a deal. And guess what? We did it, right? And that's something that, regardless of the person and the situation, we custom design these to be specific for the individual person. So again, that's something that David and I specialize in, not just because, we've done infinite banking, we've done real estate. Now we're going to marry those two and hopefully provide all of that information in service to other people, because it's benefited us, right? We don't want to just talk the talk and say, oh, this is great. No, man, we're in the trenches with y'all. We get it. We know what deals are out there. We know right now there's a lot of people whose distributions are stopped. They're not getting K1s. Mm-hmm. So if we're losing, and that doesn't mean that real estate's bad. It's just what's going on right now. And honestly, a lot of the sponsors I've talked to have done a great job dealing with all the crap they're getting thrown at them. However, if and when those types of situations arise, if we can say, hey, I'm okay with the fact that I'm not getting as much as what I thought in this deal, but I'm still getting my internal arbitrage that's making that pain a little less terrible, right? So it's just another way, like David said, we're going to enhance and improve everything that's already going on. But again, to this point on these calculations, this is assuming that the interest rate you're earning and paying are the same. That's not a real life scenario. That is not a real life scenario. It's actually much better because the interest rate on the loan is lower than what you're actually earning. But again, these are all customized so we can actually show people on an individual basis. If you guys have questions, we do individual consultations like multiple times a day. So that's something that we're able to do. Other than that, I'm going to skip through here. I will say this, and I'm going to steal a line, David. I'm going to steal something that you said about a week or so ago. we get this question all the time, which is, if this is so great, why isn't everybody doing it? Well, who's your everybody? Who are you hanging out with? Who are you talking to that's not doing this? Is it Joe Schmo down the street who, you know, works his 8 to 5, but he has a subscription to Forbes magazine, right? Good for Joe Schmo, that's great. But if we actually take a look at who is utilizing this strategy, who is right now and who has for literally over 100 years, those people that are the most successful, most prosperous, and most wealthy, that is what I want to emulate. If you want what everybody else has, go do what everybody else is doing. That's not what we're doing. We're thinking outside of the box. We're taking a mind shift, and we're going to function differently, because if we do what nobody else is willing to do, we're going to have what nobody else is ever going to have. So just a couple of examples, and these are really cool. I actually have some articles on each one of these to kind of talk about the infinite banking concept. But this right here is Rockefeller Center. I don't know if people know this, but Rockefeller Center is the largest privately constructed building ever in the history. In the history of the US, it is the largest privately funded construction project ever. So whenever Rockefeller started this massive project, right, as soon as he started it, immediately after the Great Depression hit. Nobody has jobs, companies are going out of business, yada, yada, yada. Well, Rockefeller and his, you know, undying ego, he wanted this thing done. He did not want to wait. Banks obviously weren't lending money because they, you know, they shut down the banks, right? Talk about safety and liquidity. But anyway, so the banks, they're not lending any money. So Rockefeller decided, you know what? I'll just do it myself. He took a loan out on his cash value policy and used his life insurance to fund the construction of Rockefeller Center. Same thing with good old Walt Disney, right? He had already launched his movies and his production company, but he had this dream of creating a theme park. And his vision for the story behind Disney World is incredible. So if you get a chance to look it up. But when we're talking about this, not a single bank wanted to give him a loan. They did not want to give him a loan. So he said, you know what? I'll do it myself. He took a loan out on his cash value policy, and that's the first money that was funded into the Disneyland theme parks. Same thing with Pampered Chef. We have a home ec teacher who wanted to create a line of sturdy and useful kitchen cookware, right? She took a loan out. I think it was like 2000, 2004, something like that. Anyway, took out a loan on her cash value policy and launched Pampered Chef. And then she sold it to Warren Buffett later for like 1.6 billion or something like that. It was a pretty good rate of return, let's be honest. J.C. Penney in the Great Depression, if you guys get a chance, you need to look up Coley.com. This stands for bank-owned and corporate-owned life insurances.
Yeah, here you're going to see that some of the most, prominent banks, biggest banks, have over 50% of their assets held within corporate-owned whole life insurance through mutually owned companies. Well, you know why, right? So if we talk about emulating the banking concept because it's profitable, well, we also need to find the money trail. Where are they storing their money and why? So it's an interesting dynamic of where they warehouse their dollars as well. So in reality, this is just a place to warehouse my dollars so that I can leverage it. I'm tired of the banks leveraging my money and them having so much control. Am I going to use the banks in traditional lending? Absolutely.
Yeah.
What happens if a deal comes by that I cannot pass up, but yet I'm sitting across from a bank bureaucrat guy who's going through all this red tape, and he's just like, we're not going to do it. We're worried here. Banks are holding back their loans, but you've got this opportunity. Now you've got the ability to go bank on yourself now, right? And then my goal is to eventually phase out banks to where I am completely my own banker. I lend to myself. And then also I personally want to get to a place where I'm just doing hard money lending. Because what happens if I have this big bucket of money that's protected from any economic downturn that I can collateralize loan on, knowing I'm going to get a positive arbitrage on that internally, take that money, hard money lend it, which hard money loans are always going to be the best return that you're going to get for your money, right? And it's collateralized. So I've got a double collateralized loan that I'm getting the best return on the loan, on a hard money loan, plus I'm getting an additional arbitrage inside the policy, right? And so I'm just banking on myself, right? And even for syndicators, people that are listening, how do I get in active to a deal? The easiest way to get in active to a deal is to have liquidity and net worth. And if you can position yourself, right, through your passive investing, because a lot of people start passively, accelerate your passive investment through your banking system, you're going to now have a PFS, which is your your personal financial statement, right? You're going to have that 100% liquidity on that financial statement, and that's going to be it's going to be the easiest way to get onto as a KP, right? And then you learn. So it's a really easy way to get started into a multifamily investing, and then also start to bank on it yourself as well as accelerating into deals. So it's it's very, very valuable when you look at correlating it with real estate, right? So.
And it's really used across multiple facets. Like we've seen it with construction, buildings, businesses. JCPenney was able to leverage themselves through the Great Depression, right? Foster Farms, they took advantage of, some opportunity on some land in California. Joe Biden, John McCain, Donald Trump, there have been multiple politicians that have used, right, cash values in their policy to fund their own campaigns. So this is a very versatile type of system, right? It works in all capacities. Anything you want to bank on, you can use this. It's just making sure, like I said, it's got to be set up the right way, and making sure that we understand how to fully utilize this strategy, because that's what it is. It is a strategy. It's not something that, we just, snap our fingers and everything works. No, it's something that we have to work towards, and it's just an enhancement of what we're already doing. So those people who are responsible, who are wanting to do real estate, they're, saving money, they're trying to do the right thing. Hey, 2 thumbs up to you. It doesn't matter how many zeros there are. This is something that we can actually help people continue to grow and scale. So there's a lot more to it. I know, we've talked quite a bit. Angel, this is just, like I said, this is just the foundation. There's a lot more, framework, roof, and all the interior stuff that goes along with it. But this is just some foundational information just to introduce the idea. I know you've heard about it. A lot of people have, especially in real estate, but hopefully we've been able to provide some clarity on the internal structure, just from a high level perspective. There's, yes, a lot more detail. Yes, a lot more information, but anybody that has questions, we love to educate. That's what we do. And obviously we like to talk. So,
well, and I mean, go ahead.
I just want to say, I want to end on this. When we talk about a lot more to it, it's really just understanding how to design it, right? And that's where we come in. Really using it is not very difficult at all. Understanding it, once you have it set up, it's an easy thing to plug in. Once you fully understand how to correctly design it, how to maximize your IRS limits, right? Because we've talked about this, Angel. If the IRS says, hey, you can do this, but you can only do this amount, how much would you want to do? Right? You want to do that amount because that's your max benefit, right? So we would be able to help you. That's really the difficult part, is how do you set this up? Once it's set up, the using it and plugging it in is easy. It's just a very, reciprocal process where everything just flows. You do a couple of deals in and out. You get to your money in and out phase. It's just easy. So I don't want to leave people thinking, oh my gosh, this does sound crazy complicated. No, it's just, there's a lot more detail to how you set this up and design it to make sure you're getting the most out of what the IRS will allow you to do. And then that's what's going to overcome the acquisition costs. That's what it's going to accelerate your cash. And then now you just start to use it, and implementing it and using it is not the hard part at all.
No, that's honestly the easiest thing about doing real estate or anything else. The easiest part is utilizing IBC. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, one of the neat things is that you don't have to really understand all the intricacies of it to understand that it makes you money. And so, and yeah, and like I just, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so every time I hear something, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to have that on a show. I've got to put that out there so people know about it, because we had no clue what this was. Didn't even know it existed.
Yeah.
And we're pretty well read. And so when we started hearing about it and hearing how it works, it was just like, oh, it was literally like being hit upside the head and just like, boing.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know too many ways for a single dollar to work multiple times.
Yeah. Which is what Kiyosaki tells us to do. Give $1 multiple jobs. This is literally what he's talking about. Yeah.
So
awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. I hope that, I know we have Warren that got to see the entire thing down to my mishap at the beginning. So
Thanks,
hopefully.
This is all a people business, right? We're people. That's what it's about. So, I thought I had fun. It's something we can laugh and joke about with later, right?
Later. Yeah.
You're laughing about it now, so it's all
Angel
good.
says it's not funny yet. It's not funny yet.
Not yet. Maybe in a few more minutes. Maybe a few more days.
Well, thanks for having us on, Angel. It's so good. We appreciate it. Awesome. You're the best.
Oh no, not at all. Y'all are the ones that provide the information. I just try to collect people that can help out my audience and help out people I know.